Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the latest edition of House of League. I'm James Smailes, back from my holidays, refreshed and ready to go, just like my two colleagues alongside me, our Rugby League editor, Matt Shaw. Matt, you well?
No, I'm not refreshed at all. In fact, I think I've started hay fever tablets and I'm incredibly groggy. Probably to do with the fact I'm sat next to you two who've been harping on about the golf all morning. Utterly, I mean, just so dismal.
What a miserable start to the podcast.
Who, I'm really pleased for Rory McIlroy. Nice guy, but golf is just no. As a watching sport, I would rather have watched that Huddersfield Catalan games in full twice than watch any golf ever.
Couldn't disagree with Matthew anymore. It was pure, brilliant sporting drama of the highest, and it was an emotional night. Josh, good to see you. Really emotional weekend for you, which I know you're desperate to talk about.
Oh, right, yeah.
Desperate to talk about.
Only because Matt doesn't want to talk about his sporting weekend. I'm off, as they
Relegated.
call it. I'm off the nudie run, as they call it, scoring my first try for New Club Burtonwood.
There we go.
Hang on, you've moved.
He's off the nudie list.
I've not played since 2022. So this is my first
so
season at Burtonwood.
you were a free agent for 3 seasons, and
an unwanted agent.
Yeah,
Snapped
someone decided they were desperate and needed
Desperate enough for
didn't
me,
need
yeah.
the team to fold, so they brought you in. Right.
Well, talk us through the try.
Oh, it was just a classic offload near the line, barge over number 9. That's where I play hooker. In a 2018
Hang on, so
defeat.
someone offloaded to you?
To me, yeah, then barged over. I'll show you the clip after. I mean,
Can we get
copyright-wise,
Can
we
we?
could get it in
I
this-
say, can we get permission to put this over?
yeah,
the,
we record it
over
on
the
video. It's a professional setup. at Burtonwood.
We'll get it on the socials for everybody to see. Josh at his finest.
Yeah, my mum will be delighted. Thanks.
And we're not mentioning your relegation in the table tennis league, so we'll skip over that. Listen, there's
Sorry, it's
come on.
Listen. This is the first time this has ever happened, and the reason I've had my phone on is because the transfer market's moving. It's busy. There's all sorts going on.
What a lovely segue.
And as a result, I have had my phone not on silent, which I normally do, but it has. It's hurt there. Hasn't
terrible error.
Sorry.
But you've led to, let's get into transfer news to kick us off, and the big one, obviously, in the last few days, which I think you broke the story, was Tom Amone going to Castleford Tigers for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And then staying in Super League beyond that. Tell us what you know.
Yeah, so he's going to the Tigers now.
But can I just add, that's wild because you did mention that last week, didn't you? Just as a sort of like a up in the air potential.
I got told that when we put that thumbnail up with Tom Amone in a Castleford shirt, clickbait, what you on about? And lo and behold, here we are. And Josh will defend me here off air. Did I not tell you that was in the works last week?
You did?
Last Monday. So all those who think, yeah, anyway. What? Moving on.
Someone
He's
else
on one
woke
today.
up. He's woke up on the wrong side of the bed.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So
This is what relegation does for you in the
not even
what's it called? The Michael Mouse table tennis league.
Moving on. Yes. So he's going there for the rest of the year, which, let's be honest, is an outrageously good pickup for Cass.
Brilliant.
They've so badly lacked fire. I cannot believe, by the way, there are Castleford fans moaning about it because he's only there for the rest of the year. Needs most surely at some point. And then next year, 2026, it's almost a certainty that he'll be at Hull KR now.
Yeah.
Which is a great pickup for them as well.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic player. He won the Challenge Cup. He was in a Super League dream team. Some would argue he should have been in 2. Got his move to the NRL. It just hasn't worked out for him over there, has it? Which I would love to know exactly why it's not worked. I know there was a little bit of talk that maybe it's just a little bit too intense and a bit too... The style of playing the NRL doesn't suit him and his body frame and all those sorts of things. Certainly suits him over here. So I think it's a great move for both. Castleford benefit in the short term. Obviously, Rovers don't have a quarter spot, don't have cap space, so they can't get him in now.
No.
Tom Amone needed to be playing rugby. It gives him a chance to settle in the UK again, in a different part of the UK. You don't think he's going to be living in Manchester or wherever he was if he's playing for Hull KR. And that's that. And then
and just great for Super League to have him back as
of
well.
course it is. He was one of the best props in the comp.
Yeah.
So it's a good move for everyone, I would say.
Okay. Excited to see him back, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure, in fact, Adrian Lamb came out and said they were in conversations with him, obviously a former fan favourite.
Clearly he's not spoken to his owner.
Well, no, because Derek Bowman came out, didn't he, today and said there was nothing in the works. So that's a strange one. But yeah, excellent to have him back in Super League.
I do know that there was a bit of a fallout between Derek and the management of Tom Amone, which is Sam Ayoub, which is I think it's ultra sport management. So that there is something in that. There is a bit of a fractured relationship.
Is that over the deal to take him to the NRL in the first place?
I can't remember exactly what the fallout was over. It's going back over a year, but if you remember the Lachlan Lamb saga from last year, he's also a client of the same management group, and that was a very drawn out saga, wasn't it? With contracts and nuances in the contract that were being argued and contested. So it might have been that caused the issue. But if you look at it, Zach Hardacre as part of their management, he left. Kai O'Donnell was part of their management. He left. So there was genuine substance in what Derek was saying about refusing to do business. The other one, they really wanted Reece Martin, if you recall.
Yes.
And then they were very much in the race. Then if my timings is correct, the fallout happened, and then they weren't in the race. And then Hull KR came in. So what I will say for Derek is he wasn't. That wasn't an excuse. Well, there is some legitimate conflict, is that the right word? Something not quite there in that relationship between the club and the management group that represents Tom Amone. Just
want to move the conversation on because there's a few things I want to talk about this week. And the first one, I'll come to you, Josh, because I think you covered this game. And these were the latest comments, that should be, from Steve McNamara in the wake of their victory against Huddersfield Giants on Sunday afternoon, talking again about Super League basically not showing a lot of love to the French club and almost not even keeping them at arm's length, but trying to just keep them out the party altogether. It's like they want to lock the doors and you have your drinks in the garden, wherever, or staying in the house, sort of thing. We've seen a few rumblings, but we're getting a bit more regular now of people from the club actually coming out and being critical, which they're entitled to do, but it's not a good look for the competition. Clearly there's anger there. What's Steve's latest take? Just let people know what he's been kind of saying.
Yeah, well, once again, he's defending, isn't he? He's defending Catalans Dragons and what they bring to Super League. And I think within that, the reports last week that the NRL are interested, the 33% stake, which came out, I think, after we recorded last week, that includes 2 French teams. If they get their way, they were looking at a 10-team Super League club. Now, there's loads. We could probably do a whole podcast on that. But their 10 teams included 2 from the French league, being Catalans and Toulouse. Well, if they see that there's something there, then the rest of Super League should as well. And the NRL, obviously, they enjoyed their best season yet in 2024. So they're getting a lot of things, if not everything, right. So if they're so interested in Catalans Dragons, then I think Super League should be looking within and saying, well, why aren't we as much?
Is it simply a case of, and I get this feeling, but you tell me if I'm wrong, that the owners don't like Catalan because they don't put any money in the pot in terms of away fans. They're not bringing any away fans. There's no away ticket sales. There's no revenue coming in your food and drinks, etc., etc. They're not adding to the local economy with hotels or things like that. They're not bringing anything to the party financially for the owners who, without being too critical of them, but I'm going to be critical of them, do put their interests first time after time. And I should also point out, when they're ploughing their own money in, they're entitled to do that, but they do put their own interest in first. Is it that simple that financially Catalan are not bringing enough to the party?
If the TV deal was still at 40 million, this scrutiny won't be on Catalan. Yeah. But it's not. it's almost half of that now, and that is precisely why they're looking at costs and expenses, and they look at Catalan and go, well, what are we getting in return for that? It's purely financial. Now, the argument that I would make is if you were going to do that, and we spoke a little bit about this on the show last week, let's talk about every other club. And I don't just mean in Super League, I mean Championship and League One, because they all get central funding as well. What do they bring?
Yeah.
And I think, that's an uncomfortable truth, but I think if you're going to say that about Catalan, let's talk about the others. The thing with Catalan is, and you mentioned it there, they don't contribute to Sky TV subscribers. Their away fans are practically zero. So they don't have a lot of commercial value that they tangibly bring in. The TV deal in France has never taken off. So that's the reasons. Whether that's reason enough to be talking about getting rid of them, for me, I said this last week, not a fan of any club being kicked aside, whether they're on the M62 or in France. But that's why the conversation's happening.
My big question mark is if your business model relies so heavily, or why does your business model rely so heavily on away fans rather than looking to grow from it?
It's more than away fans, though. You're right.
But that is a part of the conversation,
of course it is.
What they need to get to is they need to get to a situation where it doesn't rely on fans at all.
Yeah.
Football doesn't. The NRL doesn't. Look at their attendances. They're relying on TV money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Look, I just think at the minute, and I did chuckle, when you mentioned that 33% proposal. I spoke to a lot of CEOs and whoever else this week, and they know nothing of it. I genuinely puzzled as to where that story's come from.
Let's just talk people through this 10-team proposal, just in case people didn't see it. So what they're saying is the 2 whole clubs, obviously you can't have a Super League without both whole clubs.
How to endear yourself to everyone from outside of Hull. Carry on.
Then you've got Leeds Rhinos, and then that was it for Yorkshire, the biggest county in the country. Some would say the greatest, but, that's for others to decide.
You're really endearing yourself to a lot of people. So carry on.
Wait till we get on our predictions and we talk about which is the biggest and best derby.
Every year.
I'm just having a bit of fun. No, so you've got the 2 whole clubs and Leeds. I mean, look at this. I'm only holding up 2 fingers. I've just named 3 clubs.
You imagine the 2 whole clubs.
That's where my head's at. Right. Then there was Wigan and St Helens, Warrington,
2 French.
2 French. That was 8.
And London.
And then they were talking on London.
Well, there was 2 spots remaining, weren't there, at 10, with
2
London
spots
being
remaining.
talked.
London and possibly one other. But then there was also talk of them wanting 2 London
Well,
clubs.
Phil Gould mentioned 2 London teams.
Said they were only interested if there were 2 London clubs, which isn't going to work.
Listen, I think that story that came out was a little bit disingenuous. I think that's what the NRL would like to happen. There is no way that the Super League will go and propose that.
No.
Because that would be like a lot of, and rightly or wrongly, that would be like some clubs in there that you've not named. It's like turkeys voting for Christmas, isn't it? Why are Lee, Castleford, Wakefield, Salford and Huddersfield all going to go, let's push this idea forward? I think what came out was maybe what the NRL would like to happen, but absolutely not what Super League intend to happen or are working on behind the scenes.
I don't get why they would even like that. Why? Listen, I'm not for mergers at all, but even if they proposed a Wakefield and Cass, as we had all them years ago, even if they proposed a merger because they wanted to keep that heartland, fan base, fair enough. It wouldn't work, and I wouldn't be for it in any way, stretch or form. But they're not even proposing that. They're saying, well, we'll go from Hull to Leeds and we'll forget everything in between. It's just nonsense.
No, that won't happen. Look, what we've got at the minute, to summarise, is you've got everyone across all the world now who've all got their own ideas, who are all very keen to tell you what their idea is and what they think should happen. And it's a conversation we've had between ourselves as well. But all it really highlights is that everyone's on a different page.
Yeah.
Everyone's got different ideas. And let me tell you, this is the bit that annoys me. We could have an argument here of you argue why we should have 14 teams. I could argue why we should have 12, and Josh could argue why we should have 10. And between us, we could all pick fault in each other's proposal. Same with league structures. We are obsessed with changing things, thinking it will fix everything. It will not. League structures won't change everything. The number of teams you have in the competition won't change anything. You've fundamentally got to get to the real crux of all these issues. Now, if you ask me what I personally think is the biggest issue the sport has, it's participation. People go, well, how does participation impact Super League? I think if you've got more people playing the sport, you've got more people interested in the sport. That sorts out TV, it sorts out crowds. It sorts out your player quality. Your player pool increases because you've got more players that are going to be of a higher standard. That will then improve the quality of your competitions. It'll improve your national team.
Yeah.
So I think participation is at the crux of nearly every issue that rugby league has, as well as money, obviously.
I think me and Dan had that conversation the week off air about that, and there probably almost being less players. From experience that I've had in the community game and teams that used to play in Blackpool, the team in Blackpool no longer has an open age team. There used to be two, now there's just one. I know there's other clubs that have struggled and they've had to drop and they're desperate for players. From my personal experience, that has dropped in recent years.
Clearly,
yeah, I know. And
clearly
I'm wearing
they're
number
desperate
9
for players.
Participation in the men's game is down. That's no secret.
Yeah.
The women's game is up massively, which is fantastic news. But in the men's game, it's down. And that, to me, is what needs to be rectified. Now, what the bits I've heard from the NRL about things they'd like to do, if they do take some control, is they would probably give more money to clubs per year than they're getting right now, and quite a significant amount. However, a lot of it would be ring-fenced and would have to go into participation, into community, which is absolutely what it should be, because fundamentally that's our biggest problem. And I'm all for that. But when people don't want to talk about things like participation because it's boring and untangible.
It's not sexy, is it?
Well, it's not a tangible thing, is it?
No.
But for me, you've got to walk before you can run. You got to get those things right before you worry about. Like at the minute, it feels like everyone's trying to fix the roof before you've you've put the bricks in place. So look, everyone's having their own ideas at the minute. Everyone wants to spout, across the world what they think should happen. Someone needs to pull it all together and actually get everyone pulling in the same direction. I don't think that'll happen for a while.
Some good news in terms of audience participation in many ways is we've had 2 of the 3 tests have now sold out. I've just confirmed that Everton is now sold out. We already had a sellout at Headingley. Only 20,000 tickets sold for Wembley. I don't want to be negative. That's, it's not a concern because we're only in mid-April, but I'd like to see that number pick up. It was obvious that the 2 local ones were going to sell out first. It's an expensive cost, but let's just focus on the positives first. 2 sellouts, Josh, already. That's great. Tickets only went on general sale. Was it this morning?
This morning, yeah, Monday morning.
We've been to tests. Well, all 3 of us have been to tests that have not sold out and have had plenty of empty seats down the years and not at massive stadiums as well. That's a really good thing, a big step forward and something to look forward to at the end of the season. Yeah,
it shows the hunger that we have for the international game and especially to see England and Australia for the first time in so many years. And now I think, obviously, we've got the World Cup. I think New Zealand are scheduled, are they, to come in 2027, I think, or there's something there between England and New Zealand. There is definitely a hunger. And now we're having players in the NRL coming forward wanting to play for England as well. Obviously, there's the desire over there. We've had AJ Brimson and Max King, the Bulldogs forward, both saying, give me a call to Shaun Wayne. So he'll be glad with that. The more players that he can think about, the better, because that's what he says. He wants a bigger pool. He wants players playing up there. So yeah, fantastic for all around to see 2 sellouts already. And as you say, hopefully Wembley, as we get closer and people might miss out on the other 2 games now with them being sold out, hopefully that'll lead them to buy Wembley tickets. Yeah,
we don't need to be negative on this. It was obvious that they were going to prioritise trying to go to Headingley and trying to go to Liverpool first, because it's just cheaper for everybody when you're asking them to go to Catalan or go to Vegas or go to Wembley for the Challenge Cup final and there's the playoffs coming and everything else. People are going to prioritise cost first. Hopefully Wembley picks up though.
Yeah, well, they need to. The thing is, and I think they would openly admit themselves, they haven't promoted in London yet to the full degree that they will, which ultimately has to be the goal, to get as many people from that area to go to the games. Now, I think you'll see a big push around the Challenge Cup final, which is start of June, isn't it? First week of June, week of June. So I'm not worried about that figure at all yet. If it was 25,000 in June, it might be. I think it'll be fine. I think we're in for a cracking series. 85,000 tickets sold already is great news. 2 sellouts, and bring on Wembley. You know, hopefully they can get to what, 75,000. That'd be what do we think what do we think would be a success?
I think 70 and above is, otherwise why you go in there? You know, you go in there because it's the national stadium. You want to play the national team at the national stadium. But you go in there because you're hoping to have maximise the crowd potential, which you can't get in at Headingley or traditional rugby league ground. Yeah. You could have got in at Old Trafford, but still. I think 70 and above.
I agree, because if it was less, you could have gone to the Emirates or Tottenham.
Yeah.
So I think 70 should be the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Be nice if a fair few Aussies came over as well.
Yeah, well, why not?
We saw plenty of them in Vegas.
Yeah.
There was a game in Vegas, don't forget mention Josh.
Did you go?
He's already planned to go next year.
I'm sure he is.
Well,
he's already put
say planned. I was told I did such a good job that it was a guarantee that I was going.
It wasn't that me. No, there was plenty that went to Vegas. It would be good to see them travel in large numbers and come and do a little tour of, for a couple of weeks. Come for 16 days, whether you get all 3 games in. That'd be good. Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit quickly about a couple of games. I want to talk about Hull FC first off, because that's 7 wins away from home in a row, which is a record going back a couple of decades, I think it is. They're absolutely killing it away from home. Cade Cuss comes back from injury straight inside. They move Will Price to full back to accommodate Cuss because he's doing so well, which moves Rapana out to the centres, which tells you everything about what John Cartwright's thinking about his halves, who have been great. And now they're second in the table and they can go top. And if they don't win, it's Hull can cement their position at top. Great place to be in Hull at the minute for a rugby league fan.
We should just do a special on Hull, I think, at this rate.
It could be in the works.
Why the NRL should propose a 10-team Hull Super League by James Smailes.
No, but joking aside, what a turnaround at Hull FC. Yeah. It's a great story.
But they have exceeded all expectations, haven't they? I think everyone expects them to improve.
Well, they couldn't have got any worse.
They couldn't have got any worse. You're right. But the way they've improved, really, really impressive. They just fight. They're competitive. But the thing that's probably impressed me a little bit more in that game of the weekend, they attacked with some real flair. I think a lot of the wins have been based on the words that Dan's buzzwords, grit and effort and determination. But there was a bit of class about them on Saturday. So they scored some really, really nice tries. A few freakish ones as well. David Litton with a chip lands at his feet, and then his kick that hit his shin and his knee. And
sometimes you've got to earn that look, because they didn't have any last year when it was good against them.
They did, and they won the forward battle, which they just never did.
With a back row partnership of Chamberlain and Hardacre.
I know, crazy. I mean,
which is great for Hull, but also an ongoing topic that we talk about. Warrington, isn't it, with their forward pack?
Well, I don't want to say I told you so, but I told you so. Did I not? You all looked
7 weeks into the season.
You all looked at me when I aired concerns about Warrington's playoff ambitions.
There's a long way to go.
There is a long way to go.
You're right. There's some sort of alarm bells for that forward pack because Hull dominated. And I think Cartwright said that was Hull's best 40 minutes the first half. Their next challenge is to put a whole 80-minute performance together. Once they do that, they could be scary. Yeah, they could be competing up there at the end of the year.
There have been a few, even the Wigan win, they were pretty poor in the first half. Hull KR, they were they started all right, but not really, because Hull KR it was more like 2 poor teams, wasn't it? They played well in the second half once the game had been lost. So they've got to put a few more 80-minute performances in. They weren't fantastic against Huddersfield, but there's that says to me, well, if they can be second without really fully firing in games, you got to be encouraged by that.
Excited by 80 minutes.
I think at the end of the day, I think most Hull FC fans would have probably been happy with 9th at the start of the season.
Yeah.
I think now you're looking at it going, you'd be really upset if you didn't make the 6. And long way to go, you know me.
I still think a lot of them would be happy with 6th.
Oh, I
still think if you offer them 6th now, probably snap your hand off at 6th.
For sure. And, you know, I'm sort of in jest about the Warrington thing. But because there is a long way to go. But they've certainly got reason to be more optimistic about this season not being a dead dog than before. Because it felt at the start of the season like it was going to be a rather boring year for Hull FC.
Rebuild, wasn't it? And rebuilds can often be
a boring year.
A 9th, 10th finish while you're getting things in place.
Yeah. Well, it feels like they can probably do a little bit more than that.
Yes.
So it's exciting for them.
No, it is exciting for them. And obviously we'll talk in the predictions episode. Exciting for Hull KR that they can go there and beat them again, strengthen their position at the top of the table, and silence the neighbours.
Wait for the Hull FC fans who won't like me saying this, but the motivation for Hull KR is to put them in the box again, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just go, all right, quieten down again.
But we'll talk about that on the predictions episode later in the week. Want to talk about another game that you covered for us, Josh, at the weekend. And this, just talk about you two last week got stuck in on St Helens, so we don't need to go into too much detail, but they made the change, they struggled to score points, bringing George Whitby, Johnny Lomax goes out, whether he's rolled his ankle or whatever the reasons are, he's missing. Whitby comes in, absolutely kills it. Saints are scoring points against a Wakefield team that have done really well on the road.
They were unbeaten on the road.
We talk about every week how well they're doing on the road. And Saints just look like they had a new life to them. Great for St Helens, great for Whitby, maybe not so great for Lomax. What did you make of it?
Yeah, so Paul Whelan said Johnny Lomax, he had hurt his ankle but could have played, but he thought it was the right opportunity to give Whitby. And Whitby was everything that St Helens had lacked in recent weeks. He was creative, controlling, he had a brilliant kicking game. He took on the line. I think he had a handful, he had an assist, he kicked 10 points, involved in other tries. He was brilliant. The second half it sort of lost its flair, the game, and Wakefield scored their points. But that first 40 minutes, Whitby was really good. And the selection headache now is obviously for Good Friday and moving forward. Do you bring back Lomax and experience, or do you keep the young lad who really impressed? That's the question. It was a rhetorical question, really.
I tell you what.
The difficulties with the youngsters is you don't get the consistency.
Yeah, and Good Friday is such a big game that Lomax does offer that experience. So I think Wellens has a massive sort of headache on his hands, which is a good headache because, since he's been in charge, he's just been hit by injuries like a lot of other coaches. So it's to have that change and actually have people to pick from, he'll welcome. But yeah, Whitby, I was really, really impressed with.
And the move to put Wellsby in at 6 and Sailor in at 1 was far better.
Well, Wellsby didn't have to. He wasn't forced to do too much, and Sailor looked good at the back.
It seems to me that Wellsby is trying to carry the load, basically. Hands on the ball the most. You want your 6 to have the hands on the ball the most, so put him in there. Sailor has speed. Having him coming out the back and having that speed just made him more dangerous on the edges as well. And he's not a good defender. Well, you take him out of the defensive line.
Yeah.
It just seemed a logical move in hindsight, but it definitely worked. And now Paul Wellens has this conundrum where, depends if you're half full or half empty. You can say he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Because if they lose to Wigan and he keeps Whitby in, everyone will go, you never keep your experienced half. Yeah. And then if he brings Lomax in and they lose, they go, why on earth would you change it when it? Yeah. So likewise, if they win on whatever decision he makes, he looks like a coaching genius, doesn't he? So in that sense, I think it's a big week for Paul Wellens because he will, if they don't win the game, whatever decision he makes, he'll be scrutinised. Likewise, given the pressure he's under, because he's under a lot of pressure from the fans, who, for all we've said about Saints, the 2 points off top, Smailes. And there's this unrest, isn't there? The 2 points off top.
Hey, I want the one critical. I wasn't here last week when you two were sticking the boot in.
We were defending them a little bit. I think the fans.
I think my words were Paul Wellens deserves more time. But sticking the boot in, he's just like all these people on social media. This fella, anyway,
it is me. I've got all these different accounts with different names. But just having a go at Matt Shaw regularly.
But I think, given the pressure he's under from the fans, it's a really, really big week for him, given the decision he's got to make, the team they're facing, and this record that's hanging over him of, what was it, not from 13 against
the big guys.
Big game, big week for Paul Owens.
Big week, which we will be getting stuck into in our predictions episode later on in the week. Looking forward to that one and seeing what we get right and what we get wrong. That's it for this week, though. Thanks for being with us, everybody. On behalf of myself and Josh, we will see you next week. Matthew?
Will I not be here next week?
No, I'm just letting you say goodbye.
That was rubbish.
I'm sorry. I just still thought. Anyway,
Forgetting
from all of us, enjoy your week and enjoy your rugby league. Take care.